This election had many firsts, and many stories that will be told for generations, but one that's on my mind tonight is about a woman who cast her ballot in Atlanta. She's a lot like the millions of others who stood in line to make their voice heard in this election, except for one thing. Ann Nixon Cooper is 106 years old. She was born just a generation past slavery, when someone like her couldn't vote for two reasons: because she was a woman
and black,
and because of the color of her skin. And tonight, I think about all that she's seen throughout her century in America. The heartache and the hope, the struggle and the progress.
I'm not 106,
the times we were told that we can't.
In that era.
And the people who pressed on
Almost
that
there.
American, yes we can. And this year, in this election, she touched her finger to a string and cast her vote.
This is a celebration of the hard work that people have done. This is my sister Judy. I want you to meet her. She's a delegate. Great-grandmother. I'm great-grandmother.
A young man came to my door one day. He was running for an Obama delegate. We went out in the sunroom and we started talking, and he told me what he was doing, and I said, oh boy, I'm going to really vote for you. He said, well, tell me about you. Then I told him, and then he said, but Ms. Means, you haven't been campaigning? I said, no, you just met my husband. My husband said, I haven't had time to campaign. He said, but you have to. If you've done so much, you need to be a delegate. I grew up without a father. My mother, was the one who we had to work to help her. To me, the people who really worked then were trying to improve themselves. They were not really poor. They were temporarily broke. I was homeschooled in the cotton fields of Texas. We would pick cotton in Central Texas, and then in November and December, we would go to West Texas to pull. I was wondering, I said, why can't I be, instead of my picking cotton, why can't I be weighing it? Doris.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Doris. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. And
Good.
you?
Good. I'm good. I'm just wanting to be sure that you have the right information to where you're going to vote. To be here, to see this, to see when we couldn't, we had to pay poll tax. We had to. Some people had to take a test, a literacy test. Black people had to do that. The other people didn't. We had to do it.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah. Well, I have really enjoyed walking the neighborhood, meeting people I knew a lot,
Well,
but it was
you get
just
around
so
better
nice.
than I do after you lost your husband.
Yeah, well, I just have to keep busy.
Yeah.
I was not motivated to really do anything, but it was when my children were discriminated against that I decided that I had to do something, and I'd like to just tell you what happened. We dropped the children off at the ice skating rink and then went on out to Burnett Road to hit some balls on the driving range. This little man said, we ain't open. We went back the second time, we ain't open. Third time, we go back and he said, we ain't integrated. I said, well, why didn't you tell us that at first? Because really, that bothered me, but it's what I'd been seeing all my life. So I said, okay, Harkins, let's go and see how the kids are ice skating, see how they're doing. We went by the ice skating rink and they had been turned away too. And that's when I went home. I told my husband, look, I've had it. Enough's enough. I'm going back up there, and we are going to get organized until we get this town straight. Now, he was always supportive of me, but he said a thing. He said, you know, you may lose your job. So I said, well, you never wanted me to work anyway, so what, so what? Then he said, you may get killed. I said, I might as well get killed for doing something that I think I need to do. So we named ourselves MAC, Mothers Action Council. And I'm just so proud of the citizens of Austin who helped us remove those racial barriers.
We committed ourselves to building the world as it should be. So tonight, in honor of my father's memory and my daughter's future, out of gratitude for those whose triumphs we mark this week and those whose everyday sacrifices have brought us to this moment, let us devote ourselves to finishing their work. Let us work together to fulfill their hopes, and let's stand together to elect Barack Obama, President of the United States.
I've been discriminated against many, many, many times. I'm not better because there are so many other people who helped me, who helped us get to where we are, who were people of all races.
When I hear a woman talk about the difficulties of starting her own business or making her way in the world, I think about my grandmother, who worked her way up from the secretarial pool to middle management, despite years of being passed over for promotions because she was a woman. She's the one who taught me about hard work. She's the one who put off buying a new car or a new dress for herself so that I could have a better life. She poured everything she had into me. And although she can no longer travel, I know that she's watching tonight, and that tonight is her night as well. All right.
I remember many black people many years ago who had to fight. Some of them lost their lives to vote. Hearing Obama talk about change, I said, boy, he has taken us to a high level.
My name is Mr. James Reed, member of the Trouble Puppet Theatre Company, and you are watching Docubloggers on KLRU.
Hey, I'm Domenique Bellavia with Docubloggers. Tonight, I am at the Alamo Drafthouse, the South Lamar location, and we're actually in the old Salvation Army, which is right next door. And everybody's starting to make preparations for the Vampire Prom, which is happening tomorrow night. We just wanted to take a little look-see and see what it takes to make a vampire prom. We're going to see a bunch of people who love vampires, who maybe think they're vampires, or maybe they are vampires.
It's organized chaos, uniformly random. It's a blast. I mean, we get to really turn an old Salvation Army into a vampire prom.
So do you believe in vampires?
I think I might.
As my friend says, there's such things as lifestyle vampires here in Austin, which is like people who actually, on some level, like think they're vampires, right? Like they file their teeth and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if tomorrow night we'll have like the people who are having fun and dressed up in their costumes, and then we'll have like the lifestyle vampires kind of like hanging out and taking everything in.
This is just going to be your first official welcome here to Vampire Prom 2008. Thank you guys for coming out. Hopefully you have gotten a little bit of feeding going on.
You know, I work at the Alamo. I've seen a lot of horror movies, and this feels to me like the scene in American Werewolf in Paris, where they like go to the church party and they're like, "Yay, haha, we're making fun of this," and then the doors lock, and then everybody actually gets feasted on. It'd be really ironic if that happened tonight, though, because in all of those movies, it's always the organizers are the vampires, and I'm not a vampire. So if there are real vampires in there, I really hope that they at least have the courtesy to turn me for throwing this party instead of just killing me.
There's people here like dressed up hardcore, and people have contacts and fangs and like really crazy makeup. So yeah, I think there's something going on about vampires in Austin.
What do you plan on doing this evening? Maybe having some blood tonight, some fresh blood.
I'm going to put it up to you guys to choose. We're going to go by applause. So let's start with a round of applause for all of our nominees here. This is amazing.
I will be king because I created you all. Let's sway while coming lots of face. Let's sway to the crowd to an empty space. If it's saying that, I'll run with you.
Why not start 2009 off with a bang? But what would be an appropriate topic for us to get into at this point in the new year? Let me think. Oh yes, it's that time again. Time for all the state representatives and senators in Texas to flock to Austin for another session. And while the politicians are in the Capitol for the 81st session, getting a whole lot of nothing done, I figured I would talk to the people of Austin about some of the hot-button issues. Issues that most of those politicians would not touch with a 10-foot pole. So here it is, Austin. Let's start with an easy one and work our way up, shall we? First issue. Second Amendment. What do you think?
I do support the Second Amendment.
Well, I'm against guns, but I don't know if I'm against people owning guns for whatever reason.
I don't believe in that at all. I do believe that we should have the right to defend ourselves and bear arms if we choose to.
I'm from Texas, so I support the Second Amendment.
Honestly, don't know what that is.
The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. You know what? As liberal as I come across and as I feel socially, I'm pretty strong about it. However, I do think that certain weapons, like military weapons, I think those things should be kept out of the hands of the average Joe, so to speak.
You know, if the Second Amendment was taken away, the only people left with guns would be using them illegally, and so basically it'd be the bad guys would be the ones left with guns.
We should have the right to bear arms if we want to, if we think it's necessary, and there's all kinds of rules and regulations in place, county, state, and so forth, all the checkpoints that you're supposed to go through and should go through.
Personally, no, because people
use guns off emotions a lot of times, and that's how you take lives.
Well, I know it's kind of cliche to say this, but I do believe in the philosophy that if the government takes away the good people's guns, then the only people that would have guns are the bad people, and we'd have no way to protect ourselves.
I think that possessing guns helps cut down the crime because every person has a right to protect their household and their personal possessions.
All in all, they should probably disband that, to be honest.
Everything should be local. That's what this country was founded on. I don't know why people want to change it. My God, you know. It's been working fine for a long time now. Leave it alone. Leave me alone.
I don't want the government taking away that right at the Second Amendment.
Protect the peeps. Other than that, I'm telling you, leave us alone, man. Get away.
I want to hear from a politician on this, one that's going to tell me how they really feel. What does Ron Paul think?
There's no room in this country for the confiscation of guns, and therefore I don't like the idea of registering guns or registering the ammunition. And this is what people are fearful of with the new administration. They're very fearful that guns and ammunition will be very much more regulated. The Second Amendment is very clear, but I think it's a national amendment. The federal government can't regulate the ownership of guns. And to me, it should have, the founders obviously thought owning guns were very important to add that in, because it should have been recognized that if you own property, gun is a piece of property. You're allowed to own a knife. A knife is a dangerous weapon. But they really looked at guns and thought that self-defense was very, very important. So that was an added benefit. But in a way, if you live in a free society and you have a right to own weapons, property, you have a right to own weapons. Under our system, it is designed where states could have something to say about some regulation. I mean, we don't allow 8-year-olds to drive cars, so kids with guns when they're 10 years old, shooting up the place, obviously they're not protected under the Second Amendment. I'm optimistic, though. I think the American people have high regard for the Second Amendment. They are not going to give up their guns easily. And more so today, it looks like they want to buy more guns, not less guns. It doesn't mean that there can't be some good common sense used about who carries guns, but again, that would be a state issue. If you have the state buildings in Austin, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that the state of Austin, the state of Texas, can't regulate how guns are being used in state office buildings. But, basically most people have recognized that the recent ruling on the D.C. Gun bill has been very beneficial, but there are others now who are digging into it. There may be some loopholes in there that will actually backfire on gun ownership, and it's a very technical argument.
Well, there you go. Now you know how Ron Paul feels about the Second Amendment. But I want to know what more of you think about this topic. So here's your chance to get involved, people. Go to KLRU.org/Docubloggers. And yes, I am actually asking you what you think. And I might even use some of your comments in our next piece. I want to hear from you. We will hear more from Ron Paul and some other hot button issues, and more from the peeps as well next time.
Hi! Everybody! Thanks for coming to the Trouble Puppet Theater production of Frankenstein. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. It's a really scary show.
You get the funniest looks from people when you tell them, they ask you what you do, and you say, I'm a puppeteer, and then they kind of look at you like, okay, you're either a crazy person or you're, a crazy person. Like that. When they realize that we don't do puppet shows for kids mostly, then they can actually think of it as just art as opposed to some, something else, whatever it is that they think motivates people to do this sort of thing.
Come, let us prepare the next subject.
Your wife arrives tomorrow. You should go prepare your chambers, not these gruesome puppets. I will attend to the lab.
Yes,
because I didn't know anybody, I sort of randomly met this person who was doing a puppet show and having no experience with puppet shows and no real theater experience, I just kind of decided to volunteer because it was something to do, and really enjoyed it, and turned out to be something that I felt like really spoke to me. We ended up picking Trouble Puppet because it fits so many different aspects of what we do, because our shows, we still do a lot of political shows, we do a lot of satire, we do a lot of what we like to think of as making trouble. And also the puppets themselves just give us a lot of trouble, and they're hard to make, and they're hard to deal with, and they're hard to maintain, and they're troublesome. This can get very stressful, particularly when you're using a playboard that's this tall, which is low for a playboard, but even so, the puppet's head is as high as your own. You have to keep your arm up that high. It can get very, very tiring.
It's knowing what you need to do to make him look realistic, while at the same time, you know, say I have to have his arm up. I know I not to do that, like I just did.
Well, the thing that I love the most about Trouble Puppet is, like Rachel said, they're very daring. Also, they use bunraku puppetry, which is where you have multiple people on one puppet, which gives you so much more realism and freedom in the puppetry.
What are you doing? Let's get these organs to the laboratory before they all rot completely. Yes, go on, go.
Bunraku originates in Japan. I had never seen it done in America. But I think one of the reasons it's a draw, especially for a town like Austin, is just because the movement is so visually captivating, of just kind of seeing these inanimate things move seemingly on their own, because it's really easy to forget that we're back there.
I am a stay-at-home mom, don't really do much special, go to karaoke every now and then. You know, I like being on stage, but had never done anything like this before, and my friend called me, hey, there's these auditions. It'd be fun, and next thing I know, I'm a puppeteer.
Now, as I understand it, the doctors take this stuff, these bits and pieces, and make sort of a stew.
I grew up on the Muppets. I mean, there you go, right? You spend a lot of time watching Sesame Street as a kid. To describe my love for it would be to think about being a kid, because that's really what it's like. I mean, think about playing with action figures. You know, that's what it is. You're getting to play with, you know, an action figure in front of, you know, a large crowd of people, and it's a blast.
See this? This is what you're made of.
There's something mesmerizing about watching an inanimate object all of a sudden come to life and give you a picture that is more clear.
Well, it's furthered my obsession with the animation of lifeless objects.
I mean, a puppet can be a rag and a stick. This is, you know, that's all you need, and you can make it do amazing things. You can convince people that it's alive, that it has a soul.
This is a puppet company, but it's also a theater company, and it's just like any other theater company. It's growing and getting bigger and better at storytelling and all the technical aspects of the production.
It's constantly changing and evolving, and it's always becoming bigger than yourself, than what you thought it could be, because those people bring that energy and bring life to this work.
There's a moment when the very first time that the puppet comes alive in your hands and you feel like you're not in control of it, and that you don't need to be in control of it, and that you're essentially just there to help, and that it's doing what it's doing. But then there's that moment when I'm sitting out front and I get to see them have the moment where the puppet just came to life in their hands, and they're not even doing it anymore, and they're not even having to work at it, because it's just doing it, and they're just there as part of it. And that's, I think, the best thing about what we're doing now, is getting to see other people have that moment.
N-I-N-E-L-I-S-A.
She has two first names.
One of which is my last.
Yes, but it's a first name.
Become a Docublogger. Log on to docubloggers.org to share your opinions and story ideas, or get out your camera and create your own docublog.